Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. I'm joined this evening by Mr. James Fox. How are you, James?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I feel like we haven't done this in a while. Yeah, it's still the microphone still works, so all
yeah,
good.
it's been a minute since we've done the live thing. Yeah, I've had a nice non-restful vacation here. Ran to Omaha, over to Trey's neck of the woods for a little bit to go see a couple games in the College World Series, which right now, if you are not watching the College World Series, I would suggest doing so because it's been fun. And it was brought up in the chat by Trey, the slide ridiculous. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go look on Twitter because it is everywhere. Fantastic slide. But we are here to talk about, unfortunately, to talk about the White Sox. But we are also here to talk about the farm system and what they have been doing. One of the things that we are going to talk about tonight is some of the young guys coming up to the rotation in Chicago, and that's been a nice development. The results have been varying, but that's going to happen with the rookie pitchers. Um, we've had first wins for both Drew Thorpe and Jonathan Cannon recently. Jonathan Cannon's last outing, not so good. But how are you feeling overall about what the White Sox rotation has kind of morphed into here recently?
Yeah, so I think it's good, like not watching guys that don't matter, right? I'm very curious to see now, like the guy that we're not supposed to talk about. Mike Clevenger is probably going to be back in the rotation. So I was already fearing, like, what are they going to do? Hopefully it involves Chris Flexen and not one of these young guys. But I mean, yeah, like Jonathan Cannon did the whole like go up, go down thing, and I think we questioned it a little bit, and some other people did too. But then when he came back and he did the outing where he went 8 2/3, I was like, well, maybe they know what they're doing because he looked totally different. Like, and you knew better than me just how different his pitch mix was. I feel like that sweeper is quite different. Kind of changes his profile quite a bit. I mean, obviously, look, he got bombed in Detroit Sunday. Everybody gets bombed occasionally. Like that was just one of those where you're just going to get hit today because you don't have anything. But yeah, I mean, I think he's earned a spot in the rotation the rest of the way for sure. And he pitches kind of like a Brian Bannister guy. He looks like one of your old San Francisco Giant reclamation projects, and he's a 23-year-old 2022 third rounder. So that's, I think more to come. Hopefully we can talk about Thorpe in a minute, but it's similar. I think you just see the Bannister influence like throughout the org with the approach that's like far less fastballs in general.
Yeah, and one of the things that has been bandied about on the Twitter machine is that Martin Maldonado was you see splits between Maldonado catching Cannon and between Corey Lee catching Cannon, and that there's some sort of a relation here as to whether Jonathan Cannon is leaving pitches middle is just because Maldonado's catching him, and that I am right there with you. I don't want Maldonado anywhere near this team at this point. The guy wasn't able to hit before he came here, and he's been even worse here as they are rolling out the tarp at the White Sox game currently. Maldonado is terrible, but he's not the reason why Jonathan Cannon is leaving his fastball middle or his changeup middle to get hit into the next county. It's not his fault. He just had a bad game. Let it go. It is what it is. Nothing you can do there. That said, the start beforehand, he was commanding everything. And one of the things that he had mentioned is that left-handed hitters were hitting him really, really well, and that he needed to do something to combat that because they were hitting something like 500 against him. And guess what? When you leave it middle, those left-handed hitters are going to hit the ball far, and they did. So yeah, that's the long and short of that one. I think I don't think that too much can really be read into the results of his last start. He just didn't have his command that day and just looked bad.
Yeah. I think he's a big league starter, though. I think he's in the rotation. Even if that's a 5, that's fine. If he's a number 5 starter, he might be the best White Sox third rounder in freaking history. So, it's really not great. So
Yeah, we
yeah.
did go we did
Yeah.
go over that via text one time, and I went through about, 40 years of round 3 picks, and, I don't remember who we found other than, like, John Vukovic or something,
Yeah.
but,
Well, I
like
think Cannon was like at 0.8 WAR, like based on his one start that he had. So he might already be the highest one. So
yeah, and he's already got more WAR than Martin Maldonado,
yeah, he's
so
he's he's not good. I don't know if we're gonna, you know, see somebody else like at some point. Like we're definitely not gonna see Edgar Caro. Like that would be a terrible idea. So don't ask me about it anymore. Like it's not gonna happen. Chucky, we might see Chucky Robinson in the big leagues like towards
I'd
the
be
end of the
fine with
year.
that.
And
I'd be fine with that. He's,
Maldonado can be a catching coach or something. But
yeah, and he'd probably be great at it too. And the thing is that, they say that his game prep is like next to none, which is also something that we heard about Yasmani Grandal as well,
yeah,
was that his game prep was great and that was going to really help things. But, if he can,
yeah,
if he can coach, fine. I just don't want him taking at bats anymore
no, yeah, it's
and
not
taking
good.
up a roster spot. It's not useful.
Yeah,
So Drew Thorpe, he finally got his first win. Wasn't overwhelming. I think he had 4 walks and 5 strikeouts in like 6 innings,
yep,
I
gave
think.
up nothing though. Yeah,
Yeah. Again, that's one of those things where I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to work his nerves out and get his command all sorted now that he's trying to get settled in Chicago, but I don't see any reason unless he runs into problems, like 3 or 4 starts in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks for the rest of the year. That would make sense.
yeah, I totally agree. And his biggest issue is like, look, guys, it's not. And we've talked about it. And Ian, I know you weren't concerned about the fastball. A lot of people are. A lot of people think he just can't live with a fastball that's like that mile per hour, right? He just has to be perfect most of the time. I mean, he pitches backwards. The change is like might be an 80 grade changeup. I've seen a 70 on it, but that's a freaking good changeup. And look, he might need another pitch for lefties because the problem he would get into is in 2 of his 3 starts, he's getting behind in counts and he's going to throw his fastball. And then yeah, his fastball is kind of meat. It's not great. So if he has to throw his fastball that often, like he's going to get hit. So he needs to be ahead in the count so he can throw his changeup and get people out with it.
Yeah, if
And if
he's
he's going
not
to
feeling
continue,
his changeup, it's
yeah,
going to get bad.
yeah, like if he's going to continue to walk people, like he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think they know that, and they'll figure it out. And look, like I know, like sometimes minor league success, like the only thing that means is minor league success, right? But all these guys that were good in the big leagues, like we're also good in the minors, and he's been really, really good in the minors, and he knows how to pitch. So I think he'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, this is way more walks than anybody anticipated. He's wild in the strike zone. It's not going to be good with a fastball that's 91.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing is that like the one bad start that he had with Birmingham was kind of the same thing. He was throwing strikes, but they were hittable strikes, and he was putting himself behind in the count. One thing that he has to be able to do, that you have to do with that lower velocity, is you have to be able to command. And the nights that you just don't have your command, you're going to get shelled. And both Cannon and Drew Thorpe had the same thing. What's up, Danny? How you doing? So I want to bring this up here because this is something that we also brought up. Is that starting pitcher number 5 got lit up in Charlotte yesterday, being Mr. Clevenger. He gave up 5 runs in the second inning yesterday. Didn't look particularly great. Didn't get. I think he had 2 strikeouts. in 4 2/3 innings. Did not look terrible. But we were talking about this off air before we popped on. Is that the White Sox are talking about slowly kind of pulling the reins back in on Crochet to allow him to continue to go farther into the season. So they're going to have guys that are going to eat innings. And that's definitely one of the names that's going to
Yeah.
possibly pop up again.
Well, Crochet threw 91 pitches tonight. So I didn't know if they were going to slow play it like this, if they're going to skip starts, if they're going to go to 6 starters at some point. I do think if there's any chance that they think they might deal him, that he's going to kind of stay on routine like through the deadline. Like even if that's just hey, he can go every 5 days thing, like offer us 4 of your top 10 prospects. And then after that like happens and he doesn't get traded, like I do think then the conversation starts where it's like, okay, is it Kai Bush? Is it Mason Adams? Is it whoever? Like we're gonna start seeing all these guys, and then maybe Crochet like skips a start, throws every 7 days, like whatever, you know. Like I don't think it's a shutdown situation where it's like September and he's like done. But they are gonna have to like manage the innings at some point.
Well, I mean, if they're 65 games out of first place in September, I could see them possibly shutting him down if he's already at, like 140 innings or something. But yeah, no, I agree with that. So you brought up all the other starters in Birmingham, and one thing that is kind of sad is that Drew Thorpe was not around for the celebration in Birmingham. He did not get to celebrate with his teammates. I'm sure that you might have seen some video circulating of the celebration in the clubhouse in Montgomery for the Barons as they clinched a first half of the season title. They kind of started slowing down offensively as a couple of guys had gotten moved and not necessarily key cogs, but guys who definitely helped the offense go a little bit. Guys like Duke Ellis has disappeared. He's now with the Mets and got tossed on their 40-man roster. I guess I'll bring that up right now because we had the talk. I thought it was kind of strange that Duke Ellis got thrown on a 40-man. Although I will say, for a team that is going to be trying to fight to get a wild card spot, he is exactly the kind of guy that you can use in situations where you need to get a guy from first base to third base.
Yeah.
Which that is what he excels at. And I don't think that just because he didn't work with the White Sox, the problem is the White Sox are the White Sox team is terrible. So having a guy like Duke Ellis around, especially when you're not willing to start him and give him time to get at bats in and to draw his walks like he does do. If you're not going to give him those opportunities, he's not a luxury that you could likely afford on that 40-man roster.
Yeah, I was surprised that anybody did it, honestly, and I didn't want that to be like disrespectful to Duke Ellis, right? But it's not like, I mean, he's not like I don't know, like he's a prospect, but he's like a fifth outfielder. Like he can play center and he's going to come in and steal a bag and like that's it. And I just like didn't like the White Sox clearly thought like we can just DFA him whatever and then we'll outright him to Charlotte, right? And then it'll be fine because they didn't think anybody would claim him either, and then somebody did. And look, he might be the first DFA like off the Mets roster too. Who knows, right? Like they just kind of like him. You're going to take a look at him. But I mean, like, if you liked Duke Ellis at all, right? Why wasn't that just Mark Payton for a week? Like what are you doing? You know, I just
question.
I'm like, look, I don't think it's gonna matter. Like Duke Ellis isn't gonna like the next like White Sox good team, whenever the hell that is. Like we're not gonna be like, man, you know what? Like I wish they still had that Duke Ellis. Like that's not what this is. But I mean, like, what are you doing? Like there's all this fodder in Charlotte for a reason. Like they were
Rafael Ortega.
Yeah, like they were in a bind. They needed a guy. Like I get what they did, right? Like, oh, bring him up here. He's fun. Like and like reward him like with a 40-man spot and the meal and whatever. But I mean, like now he's gone because
Yeah,
like you've just
because
made
you
weird
were
40-man
short-sighted.
decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It didn't make any sense to me. Like when they called him up, I was like, "What's going on here?" And the fact that you lost Duke Ellis and you sent Colas back down so you could bring up Eloy Jimenez, who can't run and who's terminally hurt, and they could say that he was okay in Arizona, but I mean, like, I don't know, just the whole thing, just like the whole roster decisions in like the last 2 weeks, just kind of has my head spinning.
Yeah.
It's not that I necessarily think each individual move in a vacuum was terrible. It's just all of them added up together just adds into that White Sox dysfunction that I'm so used to seeing and that I was hoping I was done with.
Well, it's weird. Like I feel like asking Eloy Jimenez if he's like healthy enough to play is like when I ask my 2-year-old if he needs to like use the potty or not. He's like, no, okay, and then he pees on the floor. Like Eloy's like, yeah, I'm fine, and then he's not fine because he can't run.
Well,
It's just
thankfully,
he's like a
Eloy's wearing
toddler.
pants.
Yes,
So,
yeah. It's
that's
just
the good
like
part.
yeah, I don't know. And the Colas thing to me, like Grifol clearly doesn't like him, right? But there's also not really a spot for him to play. I mean, even if Jimenez isn't on the team, like you got Robert and Pham playing every day, and like they're not gonna sit Benintendi to play Cola. Like they're just not. Like we
Yeah,
don't have to like that, but they're not.
yeah.
So he might as well be in Charlotte. Like I saw like all the hand wringing over it, and they're like, oh my god, it's so unfair, and like I just like there's not a spot. And like if they trade Tommy Pham and then you want to give him the rest of the year, like fine, but like that hasn't happened yet. Like
That's
Tommy
coming.
Pham has to play.
That's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah. No, 100%. Like, I wasn't mad necessarily of the move and the logic behind the move. It's kind of more my feelings on the thing is kind of just like how they handle all the prospects and like how they like are just jerking these guys around. It's like pick a lane and stick to it, And it's like just moving these guys around like crazy. And I don't have like we've talked about this. I don't have a problem with roster churn either, but just make it make sense. And like I feel like it's, kind of half makes sense most of the time. Uh
Yeah. Well,
yeah, people that make these decisions get paid handsomely to do so. Infuriating. No doubt.
yeah, I think I think it's been a little bit tougher for Chris Getz to like get through the big league season than he was anticipating too. Not that like that's like not an excuse, but like they're gonna burn through so many guys on the 40-man just to finish a season where you're gonna win 45 games. And it's tough, It's why like there's serious like discussions to be had about which young pitchers should come up here because of 40-man stuff. Like Jake Eater's on the 40-man, Jairo Iriarte's on the 40-man. Like I think that Kai Bush and Mason Adams probably deserve starts before either of those two guys, but like they're not on the 40. And do you want to add them to the 40-man prematurely? Like when you're probably not going to be good next year either. These are all just like little things, right? Where it's like, okay, now we've added Mason Adams to the 40-man. Like if he's not going to be in your rotation next year, like it's probably not necessary. It would be great for Mason Adams, I'm sure. But Kai Bush makes a little bit of sense because he's Rule 5 eligible in December, and you're going to protect
Yeah.
him then. So if you protect him early and give him starts in August, like that one makes sense to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's like all these little decisions that are going to affect. I mean, you have to carry these guys all throughout the offseason. And obviously, like we could pull up the roster and whack 15 guys right now. Like I'm not saying that. Like we can, and they will.
I could X 25.
Yeah, like we will, but there is something to be said for like the guys that you don't have to add yet. Like doing it
Yeah.
now is stupid sometimes.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to kind of steer this in the way of the trade talk since we're talking about prospects moving around and such. So we've heard the Crochet and Robert things. I'm pretty sure that you and I are in lockstep here that I don't think either of those guys is going anywhere. I'd say probably Fetty is probably the guy who's most likely to go. And today it was announced that Jesus Luzardo, who has been like kind of the main guy who everybody else says, "Oh no, I don't want Crochet. I want Luzardo. Oh no, I don't want Fetty. I want Luzardo." He's out until August. So you can want him, but he's injured, and I doubt they're going to trade him while he's injured. So I think Fetty's market just went to the moon here. And what do you think makes the most sense here for a return package from whoever? Like, what do you think the value return on a Fetty is? I don't think that it's, obviously it's not going to be like team's top prospect probably, unless they've got a pretty terrible farm system. But
Yeah,
what do you think that we're looking at?
I mean, I think if they get a back end top 100 and another org top 10, like I'm not going to be surprised. Like Eric Fetty's good and he makes $7.5 million next year. And the White Sox don't have to trade him, right? I think teams are going to be like, "Oh, you're going to suck, trade him." Like they don't have to trade him. I think they're going to get quite a bit. I think we're going to be surprised because I think he's pretty good, and I think what he's doing translates. Like it reminds me a lot of. So this is like typical Brian Bannister, right? But like if people remember the Kevin Gossman year, like in San Francisco with him, I mean Kevin Gossman got paid. Now Eric Fetty's not that good. He's not,
No,
but it's like this, like he's like what would Eric Fetty get on the market now? Four at
15
Yeah, like 4 at
a
60
year probably.
even, right,
Yeah,
like 4 at 60,
yeah.
like he's gonna get paid. So yeah, I think they're gonna get something pretty good. I Now it doesn't have to be a top 100. It could be, you know, two guys that you think are going to be top one. Like you just have to be right, right? Like if it's like looking at a team like Baltimore, everybody knows their top prospects, right? Like if you're convinced that in the next 6 months, Dylan Beavers is going to be a top 75 prospect and that's your return with two other, fine, right? It just has to be, it has to be good. And I think it will be, or they won't do it. I do think it's going to be a while though. Because the draft, like, so there's so much trade talk because I think it's just, what we do and we'll keep doing it. And like guys write articles and your Jim Bowdens of the world, like just write like this late draft has killed the early trade deadline because teams, and it sounds crazy, but
Unless you're Luis Reyes,
yeah, well, that was
then
early,
you just
early.
yeah, that was weird.
I just like teams like for whatever reason can't do multiple things at once. And I always hear like, oh, we're focused on the draft right now. And it's like, yeah, but you have 60 people like in the front
Yeah.
office. Like, but that's like the excuse. And it kind of seems like that. Now, it is true that like if you make a deal now, you're paying a premium. Like if all of a sudden, like if Eric Fetty's traded tomorrow, they're getting a ton because it's June. You know what I mean? So yeah, it'll probably be closer to the end of July. I don't think Crochet or Robert move because I don't have any inside information, but I feel like the asking prices are really, really high and maybe rightfully so. Now that doesn't mean Getz won't just like turn around and do it in December, but that might be the better play anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree on that. So one of the other rumors that has been making the rounds here, I just want to briefly address. It doesn't have to be a long conversation here, but Skip Schumacher comes out in Bob Nightingale tweet as the favorite to be the next manager of the White Sox, assuming that Pedro Grifol is given his walking papers at the end of this year or at some point this year.
I think he knows, right?
Seems that way. I mean, and I have to assume that Pedro Grifol knows that he's on his way out as
Yeah.
well.
Do you think the Skip Schumacher press release is already typed up?
I mean, there's probably an autographed picture that they've got AJ Hinch's autograph on it and
Yeah.
his face on it.
Yeah.
I'm
So here's
sure
the,
I'm sure
yeah.
that's probably already set up.
So I don't even really like he's gonna be in demand, and I know it's like, oh god, another Tony guy, like he's qualified, like the like I kind of like Skip Schumacher. It's like the process is bad again because you've basically picked your manager already, like instead of interviewing a bunch of people. But I mean, I made this joke to you earlier. Like, do you want a Tony La Russa like St. Louis guy, or do you want another Kansas City guy? Like, what would you rather have? Like, death is not an option. So I think Skip Schumacher, all things considered, not too bad.
Man, well, I know that I don't want I don't want the old Kansas City manager.
Mike
So
Matheny? No.
yeah,
Or Ned
not
Yost?
Ned
Yeah.
Ned Yost. Yes, Ned
Yeah.
Yost. I don't want Ned Yost. That I'm
Yeah.
100%
Well, and
confident
somebody
in.
had mentioned to me that St. Louis might be open for Schumacher, but like Chaim Bloom, I think, is taking over in St. Louis. Like, I think that's an Alex Cora spot, St. Louis, personally, because he's
Yeah,
probably done in Boston. Like, there's going to be some movement. There were like some rumors that Francona wants back in. Like, I think it could be
I've
interesting
heard
this
that,
offseason.
and that was the kind of one of those things. I was like, oh, you know, you know how much Jerry loves bringing guys back.
Fine.
Francona would
Fine.
that would be amazing. But the
Yeah.
problem is that is he going to want to come to a place where it's like a funnel in a toilet bowl just
Yeah.
going down the drain? Like, is this the place where he's going to want to come? I mean, they'd have to do a lot, I think, to
Players.
entice
Yeah.
him to come here.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty ugly. Uh,
I'm sure. Yes, Clutch. I'm sure there are a bunch. Now you can go from podcaster to coach. Now the like JJ Redick was a former player though. Like people are acting like he played in the NBA. Like it's not just like me. They didn't hire me. You know, like yeah.
well, AJ Persinski then, right? He
Oh
played in
God.
MLB,
Yeah.
and
Right.
he's got a podcast. Actually, I mean, Paul Yanish, he had a podcast
He
before he
did.
got the job with the White Sox. So
Yeah.
he was doing that. I forget who it was with, but it was another Reds guy. So why not just toss him a job? Sure enough, here we are. So I don't know. Um, yeah, so there's that. So I want to move along here as the College World Series is going on here. I got the chance to watch a Jack Caglianone start when I was in Omaha, and he was all over the place. And I don't think he lasted 2 innings. I think he got pulled out in his second inning. But we just talked, and I don't want to really beat this to death because we just had a recording with Carlos Collazo from Baseball America right before we hopped onto the stream, which you'll find all sorts of information in that podcast. But I also watched a Jack Caglianone home run, so we were probably at the same
Yeah.
game, Trey. So Jack to the White Sox at number 5. That's what's in Baseball America's mock draft 4.0. Your thoughts on the White Sox bringing in Jack?
Others have done it too. I mean, I think he seems to be seriously like in the mix because what I'll say is like I'd be very surprised if they took one of the pitchers at this point. I think they're taking a hitter. Just from everything I've kind of heard. I I don't know that they've cooled on like Bryce Rayner, but I think if they go prep, it's probably Griffin. And then I just think what are your other options, right? You're gonna have some guys gone. So I think at this point, I think barring something absolutely crazy happening, Connor Griffin, Cags, JJ Weatherholt that seems like the most likely scenarios to me. And as we talked about, I'm kind of leaning like Weatherholt as definitely like the safest play, but with quite a bit of upside. The White Sox they were in heavy at his the regional that he played in, so they had all their decision makers there, so they saw him play short for a week. Now I don't know if he's going to be there because JJ Weatherholt, there's 1-1 buzz now, just like there was at the beginning of the year. I mean, he was supposed to be the number 1 pick in this
Yeah.
draft, and then he hurt his hamstring all year. So I mean, he could be gone. I still I can't see Chris Getz drafting a first baseman with his first pick, but it's hard for me to just totally say yeah, there's no way they're going to take Cags because I mean, if they think he's the best guy on the board at 5, I guess there's a scenario where they do it, but at that point I would just take a high schooler. I would just take Griffin because he's definitely going to be there.
So if this scenario plays out, the Guardians do in fact take JJ Weatherholt with the first pick because that's what's also in the BA mock.
Yeah.
And then say Bazana goes, and then who's picking second?
Condon goes 2 to the Reds, you think? Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I was leading this up to. Is that say any one of these other guys goes under slot and Condon is there. Like, are you running
Yeah,
up there and
yeah,
like
yeah. I
knocking
think
over the podium to get to the microphone?
that's the one time where like so their bonus pool it's in the first is like 7.7, I think, something like that. Like I'd probably pay him 8 million.
Yeah,
Like I'd be
I'd
like,
go
okay,
over slot. Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
8 million, you're on the board here. Like, well, we'll pay you 8 at 5. So if you know don't take less than that anywhere else. But yeah, Condon, like, yeah, that to me that's a no brainer. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he probably goes to Cincinnati. I think
Yeah.
Bazana is more likely, but I do find it hard to believe that Oakland would pass on Bazana. Um, so like I want Caglianone off the board, but I feel like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think he's still going to be available. I just don't, the thing that I don't know is this whole thing is such a crapshoot in the top four here. I don't feel confident in any one of these teams being locked in with one particular guy. Like I don't, there's no overall there's no definite one guy that everybody's saying yes this is the best guy.
Right.
We could see any one of these 10 guys
Mhm.
at number 5, and I wouldn't be
Right.
surprised,
Yeah.
except for
So
Condon, I'd be kind of surprised.
yeah. Oh, you mean like that are on the board at 5, not who
Yeah.
they were. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's just I don't know, man. I mean, and it's so much. It's gonna like depend on money. Like we're gonna have so you guys can listen to Carlos. I think Thursday. I think we're gonna have that
Yep.
out. But like we're gonna talk to Joe Doyle pre-draft, and then one of my buddies, Jeff Ellis, like runs a Guardian blog. He's pretty good. We'll have him close to the draft too. But look, like all your big time guys like Jim Callis, like they don't think we're gonna know Cleveland's pick until like maybe a half hour before the draft. There's going to be rumors. The gambling market will shift. Like it'll be Bazana one day and Weatherholt another, and we're not going to know. Like it's just going to be like, this is the guy they're taking. They're definitely going to get a discount. The slot value is over 10 million. Last year's bonus was what Paul Skeens got 9.2, and it was the most ever. Condon could get 9, I think, but nobody's getting 10. Nobody's beating the Skeens
Yeah.
bonus. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be all about money up top, and that weird stuff happens. Like Oakland picks 4. I have no idea what Oakland's going to do. They're going to take a college bat, but it could be anyone.
They're going to draft a senior and pay him $1 million.
Yeah. To me, the one that I'm most confident about is Burns 3 to Colorado. But I mean, we're like 4 weeks out, So
Yeah.
Somebody had a question on
Yeah, I was going to I brought it up.
Okay, Trey.
So yeah, so do you prefer anything for 43 and 68? Hard to not like Dreiling, but his stock has to be through the roof right now. Now, so this is one of those things, and this is actually one of the questions that we asked Carlos. I'm not going to ruin everything, but if these teams are not in on a Dreiling for 43 through 68 at this point, with literally this being the last game in the college season, I don't think that they're going to. If they're swayed by this, there's an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and they have not done their homework. And I hope that they don't pick him just because of that reason. But Vols win. Look at
So
that.
I'm going to write an article for the site just on some prep arms and college arms that I know that the White Sox are interested in. And look, I know everybody wants position players, and like I kind of do too, but you kind of have to let like the draft come to you and take like what's available to you. Like I'd love another bat at 43. I think it's possible. Like if they go Connor Griffin at 5, can they get who's the guy that Carlos mentioned to us from South Carolina? Like the guy that was supposed to go in the first round too. I'll think of it at some point, but there's like the other prep guy. Like I think they could slide another prep guy down the board, kind of like what they did in 2022, and then you can go with pitching later. But I have heard, and especially like with Brian Bannister in the building, like if the White Sox take prep pitching at 43 and 68, I'm not going to be that surprised by it because it's the strength of this draft class. Like as frightening as it is to take prep pitching, and it hasn't worked for them. Like that, Matthew Thompson didn't work, Andrew Dahlquist hasn't worked, Jared Kelly hasn't worked. Like obviously the jury's out on McDougal, but that's a 5th round pick. Like that's fine.
Yeah, that's different.
But then you have Noah Schultz, who's the second best pitching prospect in all of baseball right now. So like, do you do that twice in the second round because it's just the highest upside picks available? Maybe. But they do need bats. So, that's what.
Yeah, I personally, I would be perfectly fine with picking nothing but bats, but realistically, with the strengths of the draft, it seems like a bad idea to do that this year because it's just the depth is not there this year to be able to stack bats like that. I don't think, even though that's what I would prefer to look at through the entire draft.
Yeah.
But
So PJ Morlando of Somerville, South Carolina is who I was thinking of. So White Sox scouts think that he can play the outfield. That I think that's a possibility at 43. It would likely be over slot is my guess. So he was like a rumored top 20 guy, and then he just like didn't really hit this spring. And there's some first base concerns, but I mean that's a lefty power hitter. So I mean if you went Griffin and him with the first two picks and then started taking pitchers, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different avenues they can go. They have 4 of the first 80 and 5 of the first 107. They have to do a good job. It's a pretty important draft.
yeah, so PJ Morlando, I watched him in the draft combine, and the power is real. The guy carries a heavy bat. He hits the ball hard. But if you want him to play in the outfield, which I'm assuming that the White Sox would prefer for
Yeah.
him to do, instead of pushing him to first base, which is basically like saying, it's like
Yeah.
playing a
Go
kid
go
in right
mash.
field,
Yes.
playing right field when he's 5. You put your, you know, worst players out in the outfield just because you're not worried about the ball getting hit to him. He needs work on his glove out in the outfield. Just his footwork's bad. Like watching him chase a ball towards the wall and everything. He's going to need work. But yeah, he hits the ball a ton, and he could be really fun if he's available for him at 43 or 68 or
Yeah.
whatever. That would be interesting.
Well, they need power. I don't know how much of an emphasis it's going to be. I mean, it doesn't mean that like I would do it at 5. And that's because that's been the retort. Like on Twitter, it's been like, "Oh, Cags is awesome. You're stupid. He's the best player in college baseball." And they need power. I'm like, okay. Like, I mean, I'm not even going to really dispute any of that. I just like think there's better choices at 5. So sorry. Like,
Yeah, I am.
I mean, if they get him, I hope he hits a freaking million nukes in Kannapolis, and I'm gonna root for him. I just like don't think it's smart.
Yeah, I have BSS, battered sock syndrome. So taking a first base only guy at number 5, I am emotionally scarred and I'm hurt and I am very scared. And I don't think
Yeah.
that that's something that I can do if
How
if
about
I
how about
if I
first
was
base
making a
only
pick.
at 43 or 68?
I mean,
Right? So because we talked about this, like the comp that, and this is just a little sneak peek, right? But the comp that Carlos put on Cags was like a left-handed version of like what Pete Alonso is, and he's not the first one to say that. Like, we've heard that a lot of places. Pete Alonso is a second-round pick. Like if you look at a lot of these power hitter types that people say like, oh, Cags could be like this guy, he could be like this guy. They're all like second and third round picks. Like they're not going 5 overall in a draft. Um, so yeah, so Trey brought up Vaughn. Like I want to get into this too. Like it's not even about Vaughn. Like Cags is not similar to Vaughn or to Torkelson. But the problem is like when you're relegated to first base, like you have to be awesome or you have no value. Like you have to mash. And if you don't, like you're basically useless and like they're trying to replace you. That's the problem. He's not similar to those guys. You just need more out of that pick. You take JJ Weatherholt and you decide that JJ Weatherholt can't play shortstop. Well, he still can play second, Like same thing with Connor Griffin. Like he can play somewhere else. Like even if Connor Griffin's hit tool never develops, like maybe he makes it to the big leagues as, whatever. Like this
he can
poor
throw
man's
98 miles an hour.
yeah,
So
like is he like
he,
a poor man's like whatever, like PCA type or whatever. Like I mean, there's some value. There's none with these first basemen if they don't rake, which is
Yep.
just why it's
Exactly.
disheartening to take them that high.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. It's just that when you look at guys like, like you said, Torkelson, Manzardo, when he was brought up, he stunk the joint out as well. I mean, there are a bunch of guys that play first base that got drafted high, just don't work out. And when you're drafting at 5, you're looking like he has to be at least useful. You can't have him just not be able to hit when his only tool is hitting. He has to be able to hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. So we didn't really get into this with Carlos, but something that I found interesting was like Weatherholt was kind of seen as a 1-1 guy as the season went along. And if you
Oh, he
could
was
pull,
injured,
yeah,
so
like you could pull up the like so Danny made a comment just about how he profiles more as a second baseman. And like like I've said similar, but like he's played a pretty good shortstop at West Virginia.
he's looked pretty
So
good.
he's going to get the choice or the chance to play there, right? So I guess like my question, like why is Travis Bazana better than JJ Weatherholt? Like I don't know that he is. Like I know we look at the exit velo numbers and like some of the power, but like Bazana's a definite second baseman. Like 100%. Like he's playing second, and like maybe he is this little like mighty mouse masher that's like going to be great there. But if Weatherholt can play short and is more well rounded, like he might be a better prospect than Bazana is.
Yeah, so like the only thing that I look at with Bazana is that he has hit for power with wood bat, has hit for power obviously in college with the BB core bats. The only thing that I would like to see is if it's going to work against top of the top of the line best stuff that you can see. And like the thing is that he hits fantastic, but you watch some of his at bats in like in the super regionals, and he just got dominated. You know, so I don't know that I could necessarily say that he's going to be amazing or anything, but I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of it's just one of these things you just never know. He
Right.
looks pretty good. The great thing is that he is the he does all the
Yeah.
scouting sheets for all of his teammates and everything, which is awesome. But
I think the scenario right now that I'm most afraid of is Weatherholt 1, Condon 2, and then Burns goes 3 and Bazana goes 4 to Oakland, because then it's like definitely Cags or a prep guy in my opinion, because I don't think they're taking Montgomery, I don't think they're taking Kurtz, and they're not taking Hagen Smith. So like at that point, like if Weatherholt's off the board, I think you're picking between Cags and then making a deal with Connor Griffin, which I think some of us would obviously just, if you can get Connor Griffin and save $1 million, I think they might just do that. But yeah, that's where we are 4 weeks from now, and we'll have some more draft shows and kind of do this every week.
is it 4? I thought it was 3.
What? No, it's so late. It's like July 14th. I don't know.
Okay. All
The other
right.
thing, the other thing I heard on local radio this week, like there was like a question I heard about, like Chris Getz didn't go to the combine. I don't think that matters. I reached out to Jim Callis and kind of asked him like how teams had approached it. And I guess there's like some GMs that go, but like it doesn't. It's like not really necessary. The implication was that Getz is like doing trade stuff, and like Mike Shirley and other guys are there, so there's no reason for him to be. I don't know. I just like found. I don't know. I just like thought it was interesting. I don't really think he needs to be there. But he was not.
I mean, ideally, I would like for Chris Getz to have enough faith in Mike Shirley and his guys to let them do the interviews, to not feel like he does have to be there.
Yeah.
I think Mike Shirley has kind of earned that
Mhm.
in his time in that role. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't particularly think it's a huge deal, you know.
Do you think the people in the comments, did they know who drafted Chris Getz? Who the area scout was? That's a good one.
I don't know, so no,
You
I
don't
don't think
know?
they do.
Does anybody know the area scout that drafted Chris Getz?
Let's see, Chris Getz, where the heck did he come out of?
Michigan?
Trying to remember. Yeah,
Midwest area scout
Get,
Michael Shirley. So
oh, was it Mike
yeah,
Shirley? Oh, there
yes.
you go.
So
So
he
I
was
guess
the
he's
area
gonna have a
scout.
job for a while,
So
huh?
he was the area scout that drafted Chris Getz. So
Fair
yes,
enough.
yes.
Yeah, I was just
And
thinking J.J. Lally,
I
who's there
I
now.
like Shirley. I think he's good. So like I think that's
Yeah,
fine. But
yeah,
it's
no,
just
for sure.
another little layer. It always comes full circle with the White Sox. So
Always
that
does.
we have,
Always
Danny,
does.
and we don't know the extent of it. I just know like that that it happens. That it's like, oh, you guys just did all this work. Great, take this guy. Like, you know. So I mean, it's tough to argue a ton with like the Shirley first rounders. I mean, I think the more we've seen Jacob Gonzalez, I think there were more like higher upside selections than him. Um, but the three before him looked pretty good. So you know, so hopefully they continue on that track.
Yeah, let's hope. So Grant Taylor was put on the
Ooh,
60-day IL
yeah.
for a lat strain. Um, so your thoughts on this and how this is going to pertain to how it's going to relate to every other level that the White Sox have in the minor leagues. What kind of changes are you looking at?
Yeah, I think it's a huge pain in the ass. I think it's like Schultz last year. Like I hope he gets back and throw. What did Schultz throw? Like 27 innings last year.
27 innings, yeah.
Taylor was he even close to that or no? Was he even like at 20?
Let's
So
see. I
so to
think
me like
no.
if he can get back and throw like 25 more and get to 50, then like I think we're okay. But I mean, I think he's going to be limited again next year now. Like the White Sox are not concerned. Like I don't think the lat strain is that huge of a deal. It's just a pain because it just takes forever to heal. So he's just not going to be throwing for a little bit. And look, we saw all the comments like this guy's too good for low A. He needs to be in high A or double or in the like. Tommy John is like he came back stronger, but these things happen like sometimes. So you know, yeah, it's just going to be a slow play process. We'll kind of talk about it when we go to do our top 30, where we rank him. How much does this matter? I think we all kind of feel a little differently on that. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't think I don't really think it affects anything. I mean, you're gonna have some guys from Winston probably go to Birmingham if they ever want to let any of these Birmingham guys go to Charlotte. But other than that, I mean, I don't know how many. Like even if they took a bunch of college pitching, I don't know how much those guys are gonna pitch this year.
Yeah, and again, we talked to Carlos Collazo about this, so look out for that podcast slash YouTube video as well on Thursday. Yeah, so Taylor hit 19.1 innings pitched, 32 strikeouts, 2 walks.
Yeah, he was really good.
Not bad.
Yeah, and I think what they were like, can I maybe get him 70? You know, I don't know. You know, he was only throwing like 4 innings or whatever, so maybe it wasn't going to be that many. It'll be less than that now. I mean, this happened to what Schultz was on the shelf twice last year.
You know, I like he could absolutely get back and get another 20. And like the thing is I think that because they're not that worried about this lat strain, they don't think it's that serious. I mean, I would imagine that he could probably come back as soon as that 60 days is up and then
Probably,
hit the
yeah,
ground running. So I
yeah.
think he should be okay. But um, let's see, here. That's what Danny says. Whether Holt goes one under slot is probably the way to go. But what do I know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes sense unless you know, like Travis Bazana or Charlie Condon's on the board somehow, and the White Sox love those players. Like I think you just pay them the full freight and do it because you want the best guy. But yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm not going to argue with Connor Griffin at like $6.75 million, where you can save $1 million and get somebody later. I mean that's fine with me. That's a better outcome than Jack Caglianone to me. I haven't heard them much on Braden Montgomery, so I don't know if that's an option. So, as we get closer, the other thing I keep seeing is like people are talking about the White Sox picking 11th. They'll pick 10th next year. This is the worst
Yeah,
team. Like they're picking 10th. So if Oakland were worse than them, Oakland would pick 10 and they would pick 11, but nobody's worse than
but
them. They're picking
they're the
10th.
only
Yeah.
one that would be, I think, able to do so. Correct?
Yeah, those are the only two teams that it affects.
Yeah,
Is Oakland and the Sox. So Oakland will probably have the 11th pick because like essentially like if Oakland is the 6th or 7th worst team in baseball, they'll pick 11th, and then the White Sox will have the first pick in rounds 2 through 20. I think that's
which
sealed
is
up.
good.
I think that's probably a lock, but like right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's no way they're getting out of that one. I don't think. So I wanted to bring this up because Clutch has brought it up twice, and this is a real thing. Danny, you are out of your mind. This number, uh, it is a meme at this point. They're never ever gonna get to 74 wins. Um,
Oh, I thought
I
he
would
was
be.
making an Eloy Jimenez joke.
No, that was his number that he picked. I would say 47
Ooh.
is reasonable, but 74 absolutely not. So Peyton Paulette, he's had some rough times. Um, yeah, command hasn't been great. The velocity has not come back, and the spin rates have not come back. Um, I don't have any way to sugarcoat this at all. And like I normally don't say I try not to say bad things about anybody, but and this is not a bad thing that I'm saying. I'm just kind of putting it out there. Just things have not gone as we have hoped they would go with Paulette, and we just have to hope that that as things progress, he
Yeah.
gets better. Some guys progress and
Mhm.
start throwing hard at 12 months. Other guys, it takes a couple of years. So we hope that that's what we're gonna see with Paulette.
It's
You know,
40 innings. But this is why you like insulate yourself. That's why I kind of liked that draft class, right? Like you're gonna take this super high upside swing on Noah Schultz. Then you take the Peyton Paulette chance, but then you take Jonathan Cannon in the third, who's really safe, right? So like Jonathan Cannon's gonna be a big league starter. And then in the fifth round of that draft, you took Tyler Schweitzer, who also has a decent chance of pitching in the big league. So you just like insulate yourself a little bit with safety and like the chance that you're going to take. And look, like Peyton Paulette could, he could move to the bullpen in a year and a half and like his stuff could be back and better. So who knows? We'll see.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Schweitzer's looked really good at Double A. That's been awesome development.
Well, that
So
that ballpark is helpful for him.
it is, but like the thing is that his recent start was in Montgomery. So
Well, and I'd like to like see maybe Elijah could interview him since that's what he does, but just because like I feel like he's throwing harder than he ever has. Like,
yeah,
is that something he did? Is that like more of the Bannister effect?
I
Like,
mean he's hitting like
what is
it's
that?
like 97, right? I
Right?
mean like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's pretty normal. I thought
I know, but
for
he
him.
wasn't. But he wasn't. He wasn't doing that like at Ball State. Is what I'm saying. Like it's been quite a bit.
No, well, yeah, at Ball State, yeah, yeah, but I mean, like I think last year, I think that's what he was hitting. Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. I know that you had that on
Yep,
the TV earlier. Is that what you have now?
it's still on. Yeah, yeah, it's over.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Well, that's
kind of
something.
lame. Yeah, it's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that McDavid would get one because nobody in Florida. Well, I guess some people care, but do you see how cheap those tickets were today? The Panthers fans like totally sold out and like sold all their tickets to Game 7. Like
And they were cheap?
they were cheap. Yeah, yeah. They had like you could have flown to Florida and got in there and watched. But yeah, whatever. The hockey season's over. Their draft is Friday.
Well, I mean, like at least that girl from Twitter fame probably got cheap tickets to go see her Oilers play.
Oh yeah, yeah, Oiler girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Hawk Tuah girl.
No.
No.
All the internet memes.
Oh my god, there's so many.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say I went to Omaha last week for the College World Series, and it was awesome. If you have not been, I would highly recommend going. It's a lot of fun. The games are awesome. The stadium is awesome. Just like the event on the outside, also awesome. And the thing is that when you buy your tickets, you have no idea who you're going to see, which is totally crazy. You know, like me and the boy would have wanted to go see North Carolina. We didn't get a chance to see North Carolina, but we did. Our first game was the Christian Moore hit first cycle and Tennessee walk off against Florida State, and then the second game was Florida against NC State, and we got to see the Jack home run to right center field, which was our section. So it landed like, I don't know, 30 feet away from us, which was awesome. Just a ton of fun. I would highly recommend going. The Omaha Slump Buster tournament is my kid played in that tournament, and it coincides perfectly with the College World Series, and really happy it did. So that was fun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You did not share how much money you spent, so that's good. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Working. Ian's got to work a lot of shows, guys. So just
I worked 3 this weekend.
Yeah.
But like the thing is that like at his baseball tournament, they had like all these vendors setting up tents in the center of the tournament. There was like 12 fields at this one place, and so in the middle they set up all these tents, and like all these vendors are there. I mean, I got the kid a $400 bat for $100, like awesome, So I spent some money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
sure they
lot.
have awesome stuff everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
see
there's
here.
Colson Montgomery stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if you read Sleepy today, like he's had a pretty good week, I think Colson Montgomery did. But yeah, I mean, there's some struggles in Charlotte. I don't think he's ready. I think he needs to stay in Charlotte for a while.
Yeah. Like the thing is that I feel like he's not being aggressive enough in certain points of his at bat, and then I feel like he's being too aggressive in other points of his at bats. And until he gets that stuff sorted out, there's going to be some contact issues, and he's gotten a lot of extra base hits. There's not a ton of singles going on. It's like when you watch a bunch of these other guys, it's singles that keep the average up. He's extra base hits, extra base hits, extra base hits. So, let's hope that he continues on with this. The bat to ball gets a little better, and we can worry about sending him to Chicago. But it's going to be a bit, I think.
Yeah, and I don't mind if we don't see him. I don't know if it was this show that I mentioned it, but for that, like the PPI incentive, like he can't spend 45 days in the big leagues. This is what
Yeah.
teams have been doing. So if we see him this year, my guess is it'll be less than 45 days in the majors this year so that he's eligible for rookie of the year next year.
So Clutch asked, do you think that Schultz will pass Montgomery on the list?
Well, he already has. Baseball America, he already passed him.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, Baseball America, he's
going.
9. Schultz is 9, and Montgomery's 12. And I think Skeens is like about to graduate, which means the 2 best pitching prospects in baseball are Noah Schultz and Jackson Jobe of the Tigers. So, yeah, I think Schultz is probably going to leap him.
Yep. I'm almost 100% sure that he's gonna pass him. He pitches too well. He's pitching too good. That's the problem. You got anything else this week, James?
Nope, all good.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for spending your Monday evening with us. Usually we do Sunday nights at 8 p.m., but this week, due to other commitments and just all-out craziness, we broadcast this on a Monday night. If you are watching this on YouTube, know that you can find it in podcast form anywhere you find your podcast. If you are listening to it in podcast, know that you can find it on our YouTube page. Usually on Monday nights at 8 or usually at Sunday nights at 8 p.m. You can find all of our written content on FutureSox.net. You can find our Twitter for all of the minor league highlights at FutureSox. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at JamesFox917. We will catch you guys next week on Sunday at 8 o'clock. We thank you guys so much for spending your time with us. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you. Have a great night.